Hey everybody, I'm Natalie Bencivenga and welcome to 5 Minutes With. This week I am chatting with Ed Gainey. He is state rep and also running for mayor for the city of Pittsburgh. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, I was on your website and I happened to come across this quote and it said, "We can uplift the city of Pittsburgh for everyone if we start with those who have been left behind." Is this the sentiment that fueled your inspiration for running?
Um, Absolutely. I've been in Pittsburgh my whole life, and I love this city. I think we have one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been in, to be quite honest.
Mhm,
But I also think that we haven't uplifted everybody's ship.
mhm,
I think that's you out of 15 major metropolitan cities, Pittsburgh is the only one that don't have a Black or Latino middle class community. Um, we have to change that. We have some wonderful neighborhoods, but they're isolated.
mhm,
Every neighborhood that's African American right now is living in poverty. Those are things that we can change because what I've seen last summer was beautiful. When I seen the protesters marching in the street, you seen black, white, young, old, LGBTQIA, straight. It didn't matter. You seen communities coming together in the name of justice. They were marching for, of course, Brother Floyd, but there was also talking about the environmental. They were talking about social, criminal, but the common denominator to everything was justice.
mhm.
And it just made me understand that everybody wants to have access and opportunity because that's the beginning of justice. And that's the main reason why I'm running, because I believe we are organically ready to be able to see a city that wants to uplift every ship and move in a great direction. How much more powerful if it would be if you had a mayor that prioritized that level of engagement so that we can grow in that we can grow in that direction. We have that opportunity right now, and that's why I'm running for mayor. I believe in making it a city for everybody.
And I hear that in the powerful statement that you just gave. And as we talk about the issues and how you can actually impact and make that change that you want to see, let's touch on affordable housing. And you hear the word affordable housing. What does it actually mean? How does it play into gentrification? And as a mayor, what can you actually do?
Well, as the mayor, you create the development policies, and you can create development policies based on bricks and mortars,
Mhm,
or you can create development policies based on people.
mhm,
The reason why I'm interested in affordable housing, and I believe that that's what we have to do, is because we've seen that market rate absolutely created gentrification.
mhm,
And they say that we grew the economy in this city, and they talk about how well we increased the tax base. But what we don't say is that 7,000 people were removed from their communities.
mhm.
That's a large number. So in affordability, you can run the gamut based on AMI, but you want to make it affordable for the people that are domestically in that neighborhood now. And that's why you hear me talk about inclusionary zoning, because at the end of the day, when these developers come, it has to be embedded in their development plan that they have to do affordable housing, because we passed an inclusionary zoning law, ordinance that says this is what we have to do. If it's embedded in the plan when they come to me, then at the end of the day, it's not an add-on, it's already existing. And that's one way that we can cut down on the public subsidy, because it's already located in the plan of the developer. We have to stabilize our housing market. And how do we do it? We do it through making it affordable. Market rate didn't do it, it created a division. Affordable housing will create a neighborhood that is good for not only the community, but also for our school district, because that's where they'll send their kids.
Thank you for that. And when we're talking about funding, and we're talking about social safety nets, which includes, right, affordable housing, it includes education, it includes healthcare. We've seen a huge increase in our policing budget over the years, but the other budgets for the things that I just mentioned, those social safety nets, haven't met in any way the same type of pacing. So when you're talking about police and we're talking about justice, what I think we really need to discuss is redistributing funds, reallocating funds. So what would that look like in a larger picture? How can you actually implement that? And is that something you want to implement as mayor, that reallocation of funding?
I believe we can. I believe there's no question about it. You have control over the budget. I think one of the ways that you see a redirection of allocation is moving away from moving away from a military style police force more into a community oriented police force, and putting more money behind that budget line, so that the police, once again, like they used to do, are not just pulling up on people when there's an incident, but they're walking the beat. They're meeting Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They know the neighborhood. They know the neighbors. So they're not seen as outside of the community, but just seen as part of the community. And that's why community policing is important. Another way to redirect some of that funding is we're over policing in neighborhoods. We seen a report that just came out not too long ago that over 65% of the arrests of African Americans. That's trauma. That's traumatizing. And that comes from over policing. We can redirect some of those resources so that we're not over policing in certain areas and empowering racial profiling, but actually giving it the opportunity to really do implicit bias and deal with some of the issues that exist right now. And then thirdly, we have to redistribute, we have to repurpose the money, because we understand that we have to have social workers go out on calls. We understand that mental health is on the increase, and we have to be able to meet that demand. Not with a 1930 police model, but with a 2021 police model that talks about making sure that we have a strategy in place to educate and train social workers on how to go out on calls, because they have the experience and the wisdom to de-escalate a lot of the situations that's going on. Right now, that doesn't exist in the city. We just talking about for military style tactics and how we expand in the budget. If the budget doesn't help the people, then it's not a budget for the people.
Absolutely well put. And the next thing I wanted to touch on was the intersection between environmental justice and racial justice. And Pittsburgh has made a lot of strides when it comes to the environment over the last decade. But if you were mayor, how would you center the most vulnerable population so they can be a part of that new Green Deal that's happening in Pittsburgh
Absolutely.
and benefit from the clean water and the clean air and the parks and the green spaces? What would you do?
So the first thing we got to do, and I started doing this in my district. I partner with Clean Water and some others. Is just to begin to educate people about the importance of environmental justice. And a lot of times, the low-income vulnerable communities, we don't have that conversation with them. We have conversation inside the environmental community, the congregation that already knows what we know. In order to expand it and really be able to educate when we talk about environmental justice, you have to go to the communities you just mentioned, the vulnerable communities. But they're not going to come out just because you have an environmental meeting. Some are working 2 or 3 jobs. They try to take care of their kids. They're single moms. And so coming to an environmental meeting, they trying to clean their own environment and, before they can even deal with the physical environment. But when you have opportunities to marry interests, I think that's where you get knowledge. And so for me, whenever the lead pipes were going on, I would hold a meeting because I wanted to talk to them, not just about how the pipes was going to go, what the sidewalk was going to look like, but also the environmental justice. Why, if your kids have asthma, why clean air is important to you? Because I'm an asthmatic, and growing up, I never understood the power of clean air. Why the water and the runoff sewage into our rivers, why that's a problem. Why we need to fix it. The Green New Deal. We have to be able to have those jobs here to show them that we can lift you out of poverty with these type of clean green jobs. And people believe in what they see. So we know that CCAC has an infrastructure to deal with workforce development. We need to bring them on, but we need to get some jobs here so that we can show people that we're not just talking about it, we're actually about it, particularly in low-income communities where they can see themselves growing. So now, if I'm working on these clean green jobs, I'm educated on it, I'm bringing a paycheck home on it, I'm more in tune with the environment now. I understand why it's important because I'm working in that industry. We got to provide those jobs, particularly in low-income communities. That's how you bridge the divide. If you in low-income community, you don't care what job you got. I got drug dealers get up at 5:30 in the morning and stand there all day long to get money to be able to feed their family. And whether we think that's wrong or right, I'm not going to have that conversation. But here's the conversation when I'm having is that if we give them jobs, if we give them clean green jobs, if we teach them how they can make a living and educate them on why this is important, we've just expanded the whole concept of environmental justice. That's the power. We take for granted that they know because we know, right? Because we're in this field, because we're learning. But if you're a mom with 2 or 3 kids and you working a job and you coming home, you just trying to make sure your own environment is okay.
No, I hear that. And I think those are excellent points and they make a lot of sense, really, and weave all of these issues together because it all comes down to all of us wanting the same things: a safe place for our children to play, a clean community, not worrying about bills. Having that stress off of someone's back can make a huge difference in their quality of life, and having access to all these things, like you said, comes down to jobs that have dignity.
And Natalie, not only that, you can't expect me to know if you don't show up and tell me about it.
Right.
We talk about environmental justice in this city, but we talk about it from do we support the Paris climate change? Do we support different? And of course, that's easy, but that's not going into the most vulnerable communities and having a conversation about why environmental justice is important. That's not going on into these conversations talking about why we need to recruit these jobs. We're not having conversations with our most vulnerable, but we can use them as political ploys to be able to talk about an election as if we care, but none of it is in the budget to demonstrate it's a priority. I tell people all the time, issues get talked about, priorities get funded. And right now, we haven't prioritized anything to be able to uplift all ships in this city and have them go in the same direction. We just haven't. We brag about a tax base that we expanded without talking about the 7,000 people that we displaced. How is that? That may be growth in your eyes, but that's not progress for a city. We was promised affordable housing, but that's another broken promise. We were promised better police community relations. That's another broken promise. We were promised more. We promised that we would deal with UPMC, another broken promise. Public Works, we would invest in to make sure that our streets was plowed when the snow was out there. Another broken promise. They didn't even have the right equipment. Gender and equity. We would do everything possible to be able to unite this city. It's not in words that we need to talk, it's in action. And if anybody that knows me politically know that if I say that I'm about trying to do something, I'm putting everything I got into it. And that's why I said in the beginning, I want to see all ships sail in the same direction. It's time we open up the business of opportunity in the city and let everybody be able to succeed and grow and call Pittsburgh home.
Thank you so much, Ed, for sharing your perspective and your vision for the city. I really appreciate you taking just a little bit more than 5 minutes with me, and good luck in your campaign.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.